I was in my garage, staring at the same spot on the concrete floor for what felt like an hour, a tiny oil stain. Nothing significant, but my eyes were locked on it, as if it held the answers to the universe. Maybe because if I looked anywhere else, at the wedding invitation on my workbench, at the framed photo of Emily and me from years ago, I might actually process what was happening, and I wasn't ready for that. 2 years. 2 years since I walked out that door, since I left behind the wreckage of my marriage, since she shredded everything I thought I knew about my life. And now, in a week, we'd be in the same room again, smiling for photos, pretending like the past never happened. I tightened my jaw. No. There would be no pretending. I reached for my phone, scrolled through my contacts, and found the name I was looking for. My heart pounded in my chest as I hovered over the call button. This was it, the final piece of the plan. But before I could press it, my mind dragged me back to the night it all started, the night that turned me from a husband into something else entirely. It was a Wednesday, a completely ordinary, unremarkable Wednesday. I remember that detail so vividly because I never expected my life to go up in flames on a night so goddamn mundane. Emily had texted me earlier in the day, saying she had a late meeting, something about a client dinner. I didn't question it. I never had a reason to. I just went about my evening, made dinner for myself, and sat down in front of the TV like any other night. Then the doorbell rang. It was Greg, my coworker, a guy I barely spoke to outside of work. He looked uncomfortable, shifting on his feet like he didn't want to be there. That alone put me on edge. "Hey man," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Can we talk?" Something in his voice made my stomach drop. I stepped aside, letting him in. "What's going on?" Greg didn't sit. He just stood there in my living room, looking at the floor, at the ceiling, anywhere but at me. Then he sighed and pulled out his phone. "I saw something," he said. "And I couldn't just not tell you." He handed me his phone, and my fingers felt weirdly numb as I took it. I glanced down at the screen, a photo of Emily sitting at a restaurant, leaning in close, smiling with a man who was very much not a client. My chest tightened. "Who is he?" Greg hesitated. "I don't know if I should be the one to." My voice didn't even sound like mine anymore. "Who is he?" Greg sighed again, defeated. "His name is Ryan." The name meant nothing to me, and yet at that moment, it was everything. Greg told me where he took the picture, some trendy downtown spot Emily had never even mentioned to me. He said he saw them there a couple of times before but never thought much of it until tonight, when he overheard their conversation. They were talking about the hotel, he said carefully, like which room she was getting this time. I sat down. My legs just gave out, like my body refused to hold me up anymore. Greg looked guilty, like he hated being the one to break the news. "I wasn't sure if I should tell you," he said, "but I'd want to know." I just nodded, staring at the phone screen, at my wife's smile that wasn't meant for me. Greg left soon after that. I don't remember saying much. My mind was in a haze. But one thing was crystal clear, I had to see it for myself. I drove downtown like a man possessed. I don't remember getting in the car, starting the engine, or even pulling onto the street. 1 minute, I was in my living room, staring at Greg's phone like it was some kind of sick joke, and the next, I was weaving through traffic, gripping the wheel so tightly my fingers went numb. The restaurant Greg mentioned wasn't far, a sleek, upscale place with dim lighting and overpriced cocktails. Emily and I had never been there together, but apparently she had been there plenty. Just not with me. I spotted her car in the lot before I even parked. That smug little convertible she had to have last year, the one I told her was impractical, the one she insisted made her feel alive again. And just like that, my brain pieced together 100 little moments I had ignored. The way she had started treating me like a roommate instead of a husband, the way she'd pick fights over nothing, just to storm out of the house, the sudden work trips. I clenched my jaw. I was done ignoring things. I didn't storm in like some jealous idiot, looking for a fight. No, I wanted to see it. Really see it. I needed the image burned into my brain, so there would be no doubt, no way for her to twist the story later. So I walked in, casual, like I belonged there. The hostess barely glanced at me as I stepped inside. The place was crowded, humming with conversation, the clinking of glasses, the low thump of music. I scanned the room, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. And then there she was, Emily, sitting in a booth near the back, laughing at something he said. Ryan. I didn't recognize him at first, but then the pieces clicked. He wasn't a stranger. He wasn't some random fling she picked up at a bar. No, this was worse. Ryan was a friend, not mine, but someone in our circle, someone she had introduced me to once or twice in passing. A work acquaintance she had called him, a guy she rolled her eyes at, made jokes about. I had shaken his hand. I had welcomed him into my home, and now here he was, sitting across from my wife, holding her hand across the table. His thumb lazily stroked her palm like it was the most natural thing in the world. She wasn't pulling away. She wasn't even looking around nervously. No, she was comfortable, too comfortable. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some drunken lapse in judgment. This was routine. I could have walked up to them right then, could have flipped the table, caused a scene, let the whole damn restaurant know exactly what kind of woman Emily was. But I didn't, because she wasn't getting off that easy. I pulled out my phone, snapped a picture, and walked out. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I didn't go home. I couldn't. The walls of that house felt like a joke now, like a stage where I'd been playing the role of happy husband, while Emily was off living a different life. Instead, I drove, no destination, just miles of road and the hum of the engine under my hands. My mind was loud, replaying the scene over and over, her smile, his touch, the way she looked at him like he was the man she loved. I should have felt rage. I should have wanted to tear something apart, scream, do something. But what I felt was colder, sharper, a kind of clarity I hadn't had in years. I knew what I had to do. I parked outside a hotel, their hotel. The one Greg overheard her talking about, the place she thought was her secret. I sat there, waiting, checking the time, thinking about all the nights she had come home to me smelling like a different soap, wearing different clothes, claiming she was just exhausted from work. How many times had she lied to my face? How many times had I kissed her, held her, loved her, while she was thinking about him? Then, right on schedule, her car pulled into the lot. I watched her step out, fixing her hair, smoothing her dress, checking her phone, probably texting him. And then, instead of heading inside, she walked to the passenger side and waited. 2 minutes later, another car pulled up. Ryan. He got out, grinning, moving toward her like they'd done this 1,000 times before. She laughed at something he said, then leaned up to kiss him. Not some hesitant, guilty kiss. No, this was deep, familiar, like she belonged to him. Like I had never even existed. I gripped my phone so hard it nearly cracked, but I didn't move. Not yet. They disappeared inside, hand in hand. I waited 5 minutes. 10. Then I got out of my car and walked straight into the hotel. The receptionist barely looked up as I approached. Checking in? She asked. I smiled. Actually, I think my wife just did. Emily Parker. She frowned, glancing at the... I'm sorry, but we can't give out guest information, the receptionist said. I slid a $100 bill across the counter. I just want the room number. There was a hesitation, then a sigh. She pocketed the bill. Room 214. I nodded, turned, and walked to the elevator. My pulse was steady. My hands didn't shake. I was beyond anger now. This was something else entirely. I reached their door and stood there for a long moment, listening, muffled voices, laughter, the clinking of glasses. Then I raised my hand and knocked. Silence. A pause, then the sound of movement, and then Emily's voice, casual, completely unsuspecting. That was fast. Did you forget something? The door swung open, and there she was, standing in front of me in nothing but a hotel robe. Eyes wide, mouth parting in shock. For the first time in years, I had her full attention. "Surprise," I said. Emily's face drained of color so fast I thought she might pass out. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again like a fish gasping for air. Behind her, I could hear movement, a rustle of fabric, a hurried step, and then, "What's wrong, babe?" Ryan's voice, casual, unbothered, comfortable. Emily flinched, like she had been slapped. I watched it all unfold, like I was standing outside of my own body, detached from the moment, memorizing every detail. She turned slightly, just enough to block me from seeing inside the room. It's nothing," she stammered, her voice higher than usual. "Just a mix-up." She tried to shut the door. I caught it with my foot. Emily inhaled sharply, looking up at me. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, like I was the one sneaking around. I smiled, calm, too calm. "Well, I was at home, you know, like a husband who thinks his wife is at work. Then Greg stopped by, showed me a picture. Thought I should come see for myself." Her eyes widened. She knew. She knew exactly which picture I was talking about. I leaned in just a little, my voice dropping. "Imagine my surprise when I find out my wife has been having date nights at fancy restaurants and sneaking off to hotels with some guy she introduced me to as a work friend." Emily swallowed hard. "It's not what it looks like," she said quickly. I laughed, actually laughed. Behind her, finally came into view, shirtless, running a hand through his hair like this was just some minor inconvenience. He looked at me, then at Emily. "You want to tell me what's going on?" Emily turned to him, panicked, like she was trying to do damage control. I don't know why he's here," she said. "He's acting crazy." I raised an eyebrow. "Crazy?" I repeated. "You think I'm crazy for showing up at my wife's secret love nest?" Ryan frowned, his lazy confidence slipping just a little. "Hey man, maybe we should." I held up a hand, cutting him off. "Shut up." He did. Emily let out a nervous laugh. "Look, let's just go home and talk about this," she said, her voice dripping with forced patience. "You're obviously upset." "Oh, we'll talk," I said. "But not here. Not now. And definitely not on your terms." Emily hesitated, then reached for my arm. Her touch soft, pleading. "Babe, please. I can explain." I yanked my arm away so fast she stumbled. "Don't," I said, my voice sharp. "Don't babe me. Don't act like this is some misunderstanding." For the first time since opening the door, I saw something flicker across her face, something ugly, frustration, annoyance, inconvenience. Like I was ruining her night, like she wasn't the one who had just destroyed our marriage. Something inside me snapped into place. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to be smarter than her. I took a step back. "Enjoy your night," I said. Emily blinked. "Wait, what?" I turned and walked away without another word. I could feel her watching me, waiting for me to turn back, to say something, to react. But I didn't. Because this was just the beginning. I drove home in complete silence. No music, no calls, just the low hum of the engine and the echo of Emily's voice scrambling to explain herself. "It's not what it looks like. You're acting crazy. Babe, please. I can explain." Every word was a lie, a desperate attempt to control the damage. But she didn't realize, this time, there was no fixing it. No smoothing it over. This wasn't just an affair. This was years of deception, lies that stretched back further than I could even guess. How many nights had she left our bed and gone to him? How many times had I kissed her, completely unaware that she still had his taste on her lips? I gripped the wheel tighter. By the time I pulled into the driveway, my mind was clear. The old me, the trusting, oblivious husband, was gone. The man stepping out of that car wasn't someone Emily had ever met before. I walked inside, locked the door behind me, and did something I never thought I'd have to do. I opened a new tab on my laptop and typed, "Best divorce lawyers in the city." The first name that popped up had hundreds of 5-star reviews, ruthless, efficient, specialized in high-asset divorces. Perfect. I sent an inquiry, my fingers steady as I filled out the form. I didn't need to sleep on it. I didn't need to think. Emily had made her decision a long time ago. Now it was my turn. The next morning, I didn't say a word to her. She came home sometime after midnight. I didn't bother asking where she had been. We both knew the answer. She stood in the kitchen, watching me as I poured myself a coffee. Her robe was still loosely tied, her hair damp from a shower, like she could just wash the filth off and slip back into our life like nothing had happened. She waited for me to speak first. When I didn't, she let out a shaky breath. Okay, I get it. You're mad. I took a sip of my coffee. Mel, I repeated, finally looking at her. That's funny. You cheat on me for who knows how long, and I'm the rational one. Emily's expression tightened. I never said that. No, you just called me crazy last night, I reminded her. Big difference. She sighed, rubbing her temples like I was the one giving her a headache. Look, I don't want to fight. Good, I said, setting my mug down. Because I don't care enough to fight with you. That threw her off. Her eyebrows pulled together. What does that mean? I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. It means I'm done with all of it. She scoffed. So what? You're just walking away? I smiled. Oh no, Emily, you don't get off that easy. A flicker of unease crossed her face. What does that mean? I picked up my phone, casually scrolling. It means I already contacted a lawyer. Silence. Then Emily laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. You're not serious. I didn't respond, just kept scrolling. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. Come on, babe, we don't need lawyers. Let's just talk this out. I glanced up at her, studying her expression. She wasn't sorry. Not really. She was calculating, already trying to figure out how to manipulate the situation. I smirked. You mean you don't need lawyers? Her jaw tightened. I turned back to my phone. Oh, and just so you know, Greg isn't the only one who saw. Last night, I got my own pictures and videos. I tapped my screen and sent a few to my lawyer already. Her face paled. What the hell is wrong with you? I raised an eyebrow. What's wrong with me? You blew up our marriage, and now you're mad I'm not just rolling over and taking it? Emily's nostrils flared. I made a mistake. Multiple, I corrected. Over years. She folded her arms, her defensive stance returning. So what? You're just going to ruin my life? I tilted my head. Oh, sweetheart, I don't need to ruin your life. I smiled slow and sharp. You already did that yourself. She opened her mouth, then closed it. No words, no back and forth. For the first time, she looked like she actually understood. I grabbed my coffee, turned my back on her, and walked away. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Emily wasn't stupid. She knew she had lost control of the situation, and that terrified her more than anything. She wasn't used to me being the one in power. That's why, over the next few days, she tried everything to flip the script. First, she played the remorseful wife. She started waking up earlier, making coffee for me like she used to. Little notes left on the counter. Can we talk? Like this was some minor disagreement we could smooth over. She even started wearing her wedding ring again, like a cheap symbol that could erase what she did. Then came the guilt tactics. You're really going to throw away 15 years just like that? This isn't just about us. It's about Michael. Do you really want him to have divorced parents? Don't you think you're being a little dramatic? That one almost made me laugh. Dramatic? Dramatic, as if I was the one sneaking around in hotels. But the best part, the real kicker, 2 nights before our first meeting with the lawyers, Emily went for the nuclear option. I came home late, exhausted from work and from all the legal prep. I wasn't expecting to see her awake, much less waiting for me in the living room in lingerie. I stopped dead in the doorway. She was stretched across the couch, one leg lazily draped over the other, sipping wine like she was some goddess in a painting. The same smug, confident smile she used to give him was now turned on me. "I was thinking," she purred, twirling the wine glass in her hand. "Maybe we shouldn't rush into this whole divorce thing." I wasn't even angry, just exhausted. "You're unbelievable," I muttered. She pouted. "Oh, come on, don't be like that. We had a good thing, didn't we?" I dropped my keys onto the table. "Yeah, we did. And then you threw it away." She sighed dramatically, standing up and walking toward me slow and deliberate. "I know I messed up," she said, tracing a finger down my chest. "But we don't have to do this. You and me, we could fix it." She leaned in, her lips near my ear. "One last time." Just to be sure, I pulled back and looked at her, really looked at her. This wasn't love. This wasn't even remorse. This was desperation. Emily wasn't trying to fix our marriage. She was trying to see if she still had control over me. I smiled. "Sorry," I said. "I don't sleep with other men's leftovers." Her face twisted in rage so fast it was almost funny. I stepped back, watching the mask crumble, waiting for the real Emily to come out. The woman who wasn't sad or sorry, just angry she got caught. And sure enough, there she was. "God, you are such a pathetic loser," she snapped, arms crossing. "You really think you're punishing me? Please. You were always boring, you know that? Maybe if you weren't such a spineless little—" I laughed, actually laughed. "There she is," I said. "I was waiting for this version of you." She sneered. "Oh, screw you." "Nada," I said, stepping past her. "That's Ryan's job, right?" She grabbed the wine glass and hurled it at me. I ducked. It shattered against the wall. I shook my head, chuckling. "Classy." And then, without another word, I walked upstairs, leaving her standing there in the middle of the broken glass. She thought she could seduce her way out of this. She had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, Emily was gone. No note, no text, just an empty closet where half of her clothes used to be. I stood in the doorway, staring at the space where her things had been, and felt nothing. No sadness, no regret, just confirmation that I had been right all along. Emily wasn't sorry. She was calculating. She had realized seduction wouldn't work, that playing the victim wouldn't work, that the divorce wasn't just some bluff I'd eventually back down from. So now, she was moving on to her next move, the narrative. I checked my phone, and sure enough, messages were already rolling in. "Greg. Dude, Emily's telling people you're losing it, saying you're making up crazy accusations to cover your own guilt. Claire, a mutual friend. Hey, I just heard from Emily. Are you okay? She said you're acting irrational and refusing to talk things out with her. My mother-in-law. I don't know what's going on between you two, but Emily is heartbroken. Please don't throw everything away without trying to work it out." I laughed out loud at that one. Heartbroken? She had her legs wrapped around Ryan in a hotel room less than a week ago. But now she was the poor, abandoned wife, and I was the cruel, heartless husband who wouldn't listen. I ran a hand down my face. Of course, she was going this route. This wasn't about the marriage anymore. This was about winning. Emily was spinning the story before I even had a chance to get ahead of it, warping reality to make herself the victim. It wasn't enough to cheat. She needed people to sympathize with her while she did it. And the worst part? People were already falling for it. I wasn't about to let that happen. I called Greg first. "Hey man," he answered. "I was just about to call you." "Yeah, I saw her little PR campaign," I cut in. "You still got that photo?" Pause. "The one I sent you?" "No. The other ones. You said you'd seen them together before. Did you take any others?" Greg hesitated. "Look, I don't know if—" "Greg," I said flatly, "I need you to send me everything. And then give me 5 minutes." By lunchtime, I had a full collection of evidence. Photos, screenshots, even a damn video Greg had taken one night when he saw them at a bar together. Emily curled up in Ryan's lap, whispering something in his ear while he ran his hands up her thigh. And just like that, I had exactly what I needed. She wanted to control the story? Fine. I just give her audience the full picture. I uploaded everything into a single, neatly organized folder and then, without hesitation, sent it to every single person who had messaged me about her heartbreak. Claire, my mother-in-law, our mutual friends, even a few of her friends. And then, to finish the job, I posted one final message in our group chat with all of our mutuals. I wasn't going to say anything out of respect, but since Emily has decided to spread lies about me, I figured you all deserve the truth. Here's the full story. I attached the folder. Then I put my phone on silent and went back to work. Emily wanted a war. Now she had one. It took less than an hour for the fallout to start. By the time I checked my phone, the group chat had exploded. Messages were coming in one after another, a non-stop flood of shock, anger. And most importantly, people realizing exactly who Emily really was. Claire. Oh my God! She told us you were just being paranoid, that she never cheated. Mark, a mutual friend. Bro, what the hell? She literally made it sound like you were the bad guy. She was at a hotel with him? Emily's cousin. Damn, I feel sick. I defended her to my mom. She said you were controlling and just trying to punish her for leaving you. And then my mother-in-law. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. That one hit different. Emily had even manipulated her own mother into thinking I was the problem. But now even she couldn't deny the truth. I scrolled through the messages, watching the entire thing unravel. People were furious, not just at Emily for cheating, but for lying to all of them. Nobody likes being made a fool, and Emily had just made fools out of everyone who had defended her. And just when I thought things couldn't get better, Emily called me. I let it ring. She called again and again and again. Emily, what the hell is wrong with you? Emily, you're seriously doing this publicly? Emily, answer your damn phone. I smirked, leaned back in my chair, and typed. Me, no need. You already said what you wanted, right? Just making sure everyone sees the full story. A full minute passed. Then, Emily, you are such a child. There it was, the last stage of her game. When all else failed, she lashed out. She couldn't gaslight me anymore, couldn't manipulate, couldn't seduce, couldn't play the victim. So now she was just mad that she lost. I typed my final message. Me, enjoy Ryan. Hope he was worth it. Then I blocked her. I stared at my phone for a moment, letting it all sink in. The past 15 years of my life had just officially ended, and I had never felt freer. The next few weeks were quiet, almost too quiet. Emily had disappeared from my life completely, which at first felt like a victory. No more manipulations, no more excuses, no more lies. She was gone, just like that. But I knew her silence wasn't surrender. Emily was like a wounded animal backed into a corner, waiting for the right moment to strike back. And sure enough, she did. I was at work when I got the email from my lawyer. Subject, urgent divorce case update. I opened it, skimming the first few lines, and felt my stomach tighten. Emily was contesting everything, the assets, the house, even the car. She had gone from acting like she wanted this divorce to suddenly fighting for every last penny, as if she had earned any of it. And the best part? She was demanding spousal support. I laughed, actually laughed. The same woman who had called me a pathetic loser was now asking me to fund her new life. The same woman who had mocked me behind my back, lied to me, cheated on me for years, and now she thought she was entitled to my money? I grabbed my phone and dialed my lawyer. Tell me you're seeing this, I said the second he answered. He sighed. Yeah, I saw it. Honestly, not surprising. She's trying to drain you before you have a chance to finalize anything. I rubbed my temples. How bad is it? She's asking for a lot. Full rights to the house, a ridiculous alimony request, and she even tried throwing in a claim that you were emotionally abusive. I stopped. She what? Yeah, my lawyer said. She says you isolated her, made her feel trapped, that you overreacted to her having male friends. She's painting you as controlling. I exhaled slowly, gripping my desk so hard my knuckles went white. This wasn't just about money. This was revenge. She knew she had lost control over the narrative with our friends, so now she was trying to rewrite the story in a way that made her look like the victim. If she couldn't win in the public eye, she tried to win in court. I should have been angry, but I wasn't. Because I knew something she didn't. Let her try, I said. My lawyer paused. You sure? Oh, I'm more than sure, I said, smirking. Because I'm about to ruin her for real. That night, I opened my laptop and started gathering everything I needed, the receipts, the texts, the evidence. Emily wanted to fight? She had no idea what was coming. I sat in the courtroom, calm and controlled, ready. Emily, on the other hand, was a mess. She was dressed in her best sympathetic victim outfit, soft colors, minimal makeup, a sad yet dignified expression plastered on her face. But I could see the cracks, the tension in her jaw, the way she kept fidgeting with her sleeves. She thought she had this in the bag, that her sob story about being a neglected wife would be enough to sway the judge, that her carefully crafted lies about me being controlling would make her the innocent party. She had no idea. I had already won. The hearing started as expected. Her lawyer painted a picture of a poor, unhappy wife, emotionally abandoned by her husband, forced to seek companionship elsewhere because she felt so unloved. It was laughable. Then it was my turn. My lawyer stood up, straightened his tie, and pulled out a thick folder. Your Honor, he began. My client has gathered extensive evidence that not only disproves the claims made against him, but also establishes a clear pattern of deception and financial irresponsibility from the petitioner. Emily's face paled. The judge looked over. Proceed. And then, we dismantled her. We presented everything, the photos, the texts, the videos. Documented proof of every time she had lied, every moment she had spent with Ryan while pretending to be a devoted wife. We exposed how she had spent our joint finances on vacations and gifts for Ryan, how she had used my money to fund their little romantic getaways. We even had work records showing that on nights she had claimed to be working late, she wasn't even scheduled. The judge's expression grew colder with every piece of evidence. Emily shrank further into her chair. Her lawyer tried to object, tried to twist the story, but at some point even he realized there was no saving her. And then, the final blow. My lawyer placed one last document on the table. Your Honor, this is a sworn affidavit from Mr. Ryan himself, admitting to the affair and detailing the extent of their relationship. A dead silence filled the courtroom. Emily's head snapped toward me, pure horror in her eyes. I just smiled. See, Emily thought she had Ryan wrapped around her finger, thought he'd never betray her. But the moment I reached out and offered him a way to protect himself from legal involvement, he folded like a cheap suit. In the end, Emily wasn't just a cheater. She was a cheater who got betrayed by her own affair partner. The judge ruled in my favor on everything. Emily got nothing. No alimony, no house, no car. She walked in thinking she would destroy me. She walked out with absolutely nothing to her name. 2 years later, I walked into my son's wedding. Michael was standing at the altar, looking nervous, excited, everything a groom should be. He saw me and smiled, relief flashing in his eyes. He had been worried about how the day would go, whether things would get tense. I had told him not to worry. I took my seat near the front, nodding politely at familiar faces, at the people who had once taken Emily's side, only to realize in time how wrong they had been. And then, just as the ceremony was about to start, she arrived. Emily. She looked different, older. Not in age, but in the way the years hadn't been kind to her. Maybe it was the financial stress, maybe it was the damage to her reputation, maybe it was just the weight of knowing she had lost everything. She saw me, hesitated, then made her way toward the only empty seat left, several rows behind me. She wasn't sitting with family. She wasn't sitting with our son, Because Michael didn't invite her, not officially, not directly. She had RSVP'd, but he had never sent her a proper invitation. Because despite everything, she still refused to take responsibility for what she had done. And Michael? Michael didn't look at her again after that. She had already seen my final message.